Everybody. So we've got our guests who will be joining us, two new guests. I've been friends for a long time. We've been treading around doing various entertainment ventures in the New York, New Jersey area. And I'm going to bring on Brenda B and Deems Palmer to join me and this great grotesque saturnalia of sound and music.
Hello, hi, Neve.
What's happening? How
Fun.
are you?
Thank you for having
Top
us
of
on
the
the show
morning to
today.
you.
Top of the morning to both of you. Brenda, you're in Florida, I understand. Where at in Florida?
Northport virus visiting mom.
Oh, you're in Northport. How the neighborhood? Is it pretty screwed?
Oh yeah, everybody really. I don't think too many people escape, Neil. But
Right. I know my parents live in Sarasota, so I get the whole lay of the land, and I lived there for 50 years, so I know Florida's like my adopted home state. I grew up in New Jersey, but I go down there in the winter. I can't. I hate Florida. Don't get me wrong. I love my friends. I love the family. But the heat is what gets me. I like the seasons, That's why everybody said when I moved back to New York, they're like, "Are you an idiot? If you're gonna go somewhere with music, at least go to LA. The weather's warm." But I had some friends here, and so here I am. And Deems, are you a native of the area too?
Yes, I am. Can you hear
Yeah, I
me?
hear you very well.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I am. I was born in lovely Hatboro, Pennsylvania, but I've lived in South Jersey until I moved to the NEPA.
Okay.
So that's where I am now. So I am a native of the area. Yeah.
Okay. And did you grow up in Florida, Brenda?
oh no, I,
I, I, I
I
didn't think so. You don't seem like. No.
no, I've never enjoyed the good life till now. I,
Okay.
I'm
Well,
seriously, Neil. It's a different lifestyle here. Um,
absolutely.
the people are different. They're nice
Hmm.
and mostly hospitable. Traffic goes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just wonderful. But let's not talk about that. I am dying to talk about something you said earlier.
All right. Take it away.
All right, I wrote down a note because
Uh
I really am attentive to everything you say. But first of all, I was thinking that we were going to interview each other today,
oh.
and
Hmm.
I'd like to talk about you for.
Okay. I'm an open page, an open
Uh,
book, within
uh,
reason.
well,
I
we
can't talk about my animal fetish habits, but other than that.
well, no, 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 I'm not going there.
Good, good, good. We'll keep it all positive and Disney World oriented.
Actually, that's what I like best. But we were talking earlier about our careers and how we started. And actually, I think all three of us started at the same time during COVID. We really got into it. And I got into it to keep in touch with my family and friends. And it was just so dismal being alone.
Right.
But and then Deems lived nearby, and we stopped. We both knew we were safe. We didn't have COVID. But tell me why you got into it.
Well, it's kind of silly. I my girlfriend was home for the weekend, and it was just odd. We were just laying in bed, and she looks at me. She goes, "You got to find something to do with yourself. You're driving me nuts. You don't have a band. You're not doing anything. You can't go anywhere." So I'm sitting here. I got a beautiful house. Great life. I'm wandering around. I'm in the studio writing misery songs because I'm miserable. I can't go out and hang. I was in the middle of sessions for a record, and I called up to finish the last bit of one song. Just I had to go in and cut in one piece. Go in, I get the thing all done, but that one piece is still not done. And I called somebody and said, "Hey, come to the studio." And they said, "No, we have to shelter in place." I'm like, "The fuck is that? I got the studio. It's empty. I've rented it." And then he goes, "I know you. You're gonna come down here. You're gonna book me for an hour, and you're not gonna leave till 2 in the morning. I know you, and you won't let us eat lunch." I said, "Well, my reputation precedes me, but I had to sit at home." So, with all that going on, I think really I was probably in kind of a bastard mood. Not taking it out on her, but the kind of mood you get into where it's like COVID. Every day you're getting phone calls. People are dying. Friends of yours are sick. You're worried sick, and you can't do nothing about it. So I'm sitting in the house steaming and seething, and I need things to do. As you can tell, I'm a very calm, relaxed individual. And what happens is, if I don't have a project or something to be very focused intensely on, I'm probably a pain in the ass to anybody who deigns to have a relationship. So she says, "You need a job. What are you going to do?" I'm laying in bed thinking, think of something else right now, but no. I said, "I'm going to start a radio show on Monday." She looks at me. She goes, "Right?" I said, "No, I'm really. I don't." And she goes, "Well, what do you know about it?" And I said, "Well, I've been on the radio hundreds of times. Back in the day, over the years, I've had the opportunity to be on radio with various friends of mine. So I didn't think it looked too hard, and it's harder than it looks, as I know you will."
Yes.
I had high hopes of doing a show a day, every day, and I was going to be the next big Johnny Carson of our era.
Oh, well.
No, it hasn't
You're doing
happened.
pretty darn good.
Oh, you know what? If I'm having fun, I assume the audience is having some level of fun or amusement.
Well, you know how I don't know if you recall, but we met when I asked you if you would be a drummer for my band.
Right, because you had a band you knew Paul. How did you know Paul Neumann? I'm just curious. Hey, Deb.
How did I know Paul? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Well, actually, being a promoter, Paul was promoting a wonderful, wonderful people. Did you meet Steve and Karen area?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They were here in town for a while.
Well, that's how I met Paul. Paul asked. They were touring and they were recording. I think I don't know if they were recording in New York or whatever. And Paul gave me a buzz and said, "Hey, Brenda, we have that Stephen and Karen in town,
right?
And we're going to come stay with you." And
I had them play at one of our gigs because we had short notice and had to get an opening act. So I was like, "Hey, you guys are in town. Come on, you're going to come on and do an hour. Come on, we'll pay you."
Oh my God,
they're great.
Well,
nice.
They're so great, aren't they? Well, we sat down all night long with another musicians that we had the friends with, and we just played. Jan and her friend Warren, we just played music all night long. But that's how I met Paul, from that experience. Now, here's what you said that I want to talk about, though. Okay.
Oh, okay. Take it away.
Okay.
So kind of a weird feeling being actually asked questions.
Oh, come on. That's what we agree.
It's okay. But no, I know it's fine. I'm an open book.
Well, so am I. But sometimes I shut the pages.
Well, you have to be careful who you show certain pages of certain books. It's just the way it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you said something long ago. We're all musicians, but I think that actually you and Deems have the more deserving of the title than I ever could. My life was devoted to raising my son and being a businesswoman.
Sure.
And that's actually how I got into it.
Without having you as a businesswoman, it probably would have never happened because it takes a certain kind of business savvy. At least one person in the band has to have an idea that this is a business and not just a bunch of nuts.
Oh God! You can have Deems.
Herding cats.
I fired somebody 2 weeks before a gig.
That happens.
A talented musician, and he did not respect my role enough because my direction was basically always going to be towards video, to bringing my bands out into the public, and he didn't like to be photographed. And I said, "Sorry, right, Deems?"
Oh yeah.
That's funny.
Oh yeah.
Neil,
no, you have no right to. She wanted to share a live rehearsal, and like the musicians were, "Oh, you can't do that. Oh, you can't share a live rehearsal. It's not perfect." And it's just like, take a look at YouTube now. There's so much stuff that's so much fun that's not perfect.
It's funny because there's a couple of ways to look at it, and that is one perception people have.
Right.
Other people, like me, I hate to leave money on the table, and I think that one thing about that is you can get in your fan club. It's weird. Toby can't see the show. Gina, anybody out there watching? Irish, can you see the show? Just nod your head or type in. I hope they can see the show, but that'll be interesting if they can't, to see how it translates as radio versus with the appeal of all of us.
Old school.
I like radio, and
I do
too. It's a dying art too.
Yes.
When Julie was working with me, we were going to do a redo of the War of the Worlds, but a modernized up version. And we did quite a bit of it, and then she left. She had some other things that came up, but yeah, like Mitch was talking, live streaming a rehearsal. Say you have a Patreon account, people pay you $5 a month just to be part of your club, and you send them things, get them a secret handshake and a decoder ring, all the cool stuff that keeps people in the club. But streaming rehearsals, like Mitch is a bass player out in California, in LA. Irish can see, Toby. I'm not sure. Maybe log out and re-log in. I can see it here on my secondary monitor that it's playing on Facebook. I can see, said the blind man.
Well, finish your thought, because that's going to lead right into my question that I have for you from the previous conversation.
Well, I kind of rambled on, so I'm not really sure where I was going with that. I admit it.
All right, I'll take you there. All right.
Yes.
I'm always happy to go places, right, Deems?
Absolutely.
Very happy to go places.
Sometimes he tells me where to go, though.
By the way, I see us live too.
But here's the question. You were talking earlier, and you said that you learned not to care. Well, actually, that wasn't your words, but in essence.
Pretty close.
Yeah. Now, my consideration to that, my thought pattern was, my experiences with musicians, all musicians, is that they care too much. Now, in the instance of firing that guy 2 weeks before the gig, I mean, he refused to because he wanted perfection.
What? Oh, he's one of those people who's never quite good enough. Perhaps his father beat him too much as a child, and
I wanted to beat him. But seriously, I think that
works for me.
Oh, well, let's keep
kidding.
it
Those rumors are greatly exaggerated.
But I think that musicians sometimes care too much. I know Deems, for example. Well, he's a bassist, a bossist, whatever.
Right.
And he has has 40 years experience, yet he will not go play just to play. He has to practice and rehearse and everything. And I'm of the mindset is, you're a drummer. Tell me, could you get back on the drums and just play just freely?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I see you and I are a different mindset. I wonder if that's because we're both business people as well.
Well, you learn in business. I think there's a portion of us, because we're all made up of many identities. People know you from business. They might know you from the band. They might know you from the store. How you portray yourself to the world, and I think really worrying, if you're a creative person, you're going to see things in a different way than a lot of people do. Sometimes it'll be right. Sometimes it'll be wrong. Sometimes it's just going to be different. But I've noticed most musicians, artists, writers, painters, they look at things just in a funny way. It's like George O'Keeffe once said, you got to have a certain nerve about you. And I'll give you an example of that. I'm a very solutions-oriented guy. About 30 years ago, maybe longer, I was trying to get a booking in Tampa. Club called Speedy Brown's, 7th Avenue and 22nd Street. Lovely venue. I'd play there, and the young ladies would come and do lovely things against the glass, and it was just that kind of place. It was wild and crazy in the 90s. And I have a friend who played there regularly, so I'd be playing down the street, and I'd trot down there and go, hey man, introduce me to Mike, I think was his name. Can't remember now, but he kept saying, yeah. And then once at the bar, he talked, but Mike was blasted and didn't really get it. So finally, I saw that they were playing there, and I called him the Sunday after their gig, and I went, hey, yeah, this is, I can't remember his name, but this band was called The Headlights. And I said, yeah, it was the bass player. I can't think of his name now, but I'm like, yeah, this is Neve Steve from his band. And the guy goes, oh yeah, you guys were great last night. He starts going on and on about how great the gig was. I love this song. And I'm trying hard not to talk, which, as you can tell, is difficult.
Me too.
And I said to the guy, I go, look, I got these friends of mine. They're in a band called the Shake Society, and I want you to book them. The guy goes, oh, okay, tell them to call me. And so I don't call them. I go down in person, on Monday. I meet him, and I'm trying really hard not to sound like my voice. And I just went in and I talked to him, and I go, well, I happen to have my calendar, man. I booked till the end of the year.
Wow.
Every 1 week a month till the end of the year, and the light bulb went off. And then what was funny is I kept calling my friend. He really, there was an article today about artists a lot of times have no friends. Musicians, people like that, actors, all they've got is sycophants, people who follow them around, get paid. So they get kind of into this bubble of yes to everything you say being a great idea. And I don't know, I think that in business and in a band, you have to have that ability to say, I'm going to get this no matter what I have to do. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to get maybe a little beat up in the process, but I'm just going to hang tight. That band, when I told them how I got the gig, they were like, one guy was appalled. The rest of them were like, go Neil, man. That was great. It was a funny story. And I don't feel any particular guilt. I'm sure if our Father above has things to judge me for, that's relatively low on the scale. And I mean,
but we talked about judging before, what you talked about judging before. And your point about not worrying about what other people think was something that really I felt deeply, because unfortunately, I'm always worried. Like,
well, you know what? You're a good person, and good people tend to worry about things, sometimes too much. I mean, we all have traits that come from our evolution and our genetics, our parents. I mean, if you look at my daughter, myself, and my mom, I've had more people tell me when they met my mom, they're like, "Oh, I totally get you now, man. You're all right,
Well, not with me.
I'm like, not. I'm in this, some kind of remedial class for drummers.
You're like your mom?
Very much so. We're both very focused, and I have to say, know yourself. I can be a pain in the ass, and
Mom support your music career.
she supported it every way you could possibly support. I had the best band mom. I have a friend of mine who he didn't have a bass amp, excuse me. So we went and rented him one so we could have our band and just get our band going, and riding me around in a car. And let me tell you, any parent out there, folks, if you have children and encourage them to play an instrument, remember, this is not just them. It's you. You guys have to support them. It's a lot of work. It's a pain in the ass driving kids and then sitting around. And you have to worry, like, I know this. My folks always, my mom knew where I was at all the time. Because for at least the first 20 years of my life, from the time I was 8 years old.
20 years?
I'm talking about early in life, though. That's all I did.
Wow.
Like, I sat and I'd read books and I played drums. And I didn't have a big network. My friends were always in the band. And it wasn't really until I've been a musician so long that I don't really know what else to do to have fun. It's like the best enjoyment. I like doing the show. It's fun, but it's a different kind of a thing. Oh yeah, you know who the Headlights are? Roger McGuinn. Absolutely. Great band.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to remember their bass player's name. It's killing me because I know he just passed away. I can see his face. I can see him standing there. But yeah, sadly, the bass player passed away last year. It is the same. Tell you the truth, that he's talking about this friend of mine's band. I remember going home from an early gig, turn on Johnny Carson. There's my boys with Roger McGuinn. Everybody in Tampa, we're all like, all right. And here's another bit of trivia, Bill. I was part of the team. I was at the studio that we recorded Roger McGuinn's. All of the tunes that are on that record, we recorded and did completely killer demos for him. Those demos were presented to the record label, got him the deal. Did they keep all of our stuff to use on the record? Unfortunately, no. But I have, back in the day, spoken to Roger McGuinn about it and to the band members, and they all said that those demos had more of it was like a cohesive band playing in the studio. The record's tremendous. I think he got a Grammy for it, but that record, when it came out, put him back on the scene, making a lot of money again. So, at any rate, I'm sorry I'm answering a guest, but yeah,
okay.
Small world.
That's another thing we talked about prior to the show. Our fan base.
Mm-hmm.
You, like, right now you have somebody that's chiming in. We have Deems and I have different, have our fans have become our family.
Sure.
Like Jody Weber, we have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we actually have. I could say that I actually love my fans.
Sure.
You were telling me about you that you have a lady that watches you every day with her cat.
Wonderful lady. I honestly, my favorite. I love all my guests, but I have to say, Susan. Susan, I'm not going to say your last name to protect you from being associated with somebody like me. At any rate, Susan and I speak every day. We both have black and white cats, and we joke about, the cats are betrothed.
That one too.
Yeah, I know. Brenda does too. We're all a bunch of cat freaks. So it's funny. Heavy metal bands like the band I just opened up in the show that I did. The amazing amount of those guys look like they're savages. They got tattoos. They're big. And they're always looking stern and evil, trying to be scary for the heavy metal thing. And they've got cats. Like they all dig cats. There's like, it's a thing in heavy metal. A lot of the guitar players and heavy metal guys love cats. I like cats too. You know what? I'm the kind of guy, I like all animals. I prefer them to most people that I run into on the day-to-day out in civilian life. I mean, my cats, people say, you can't train a cat. You can train a cat all kinds of things,
Oh, Deems talks to him. I like them because they're independent.
Yes.
Right now, Deems is taking care of one of our rescues, which is another sideline we have. But yeah, it's cool. I love seeing pictures of your cats too.
Well, thank you. It's one of those things. There's people in life. Some people are all dog or all cat, or some people like ferrets, which to me having a weasel just skeeves me, man. Having that thing and they smell bad, and having that thing running around my house, I'd be like, let's go get a couple of glue sticks, and get rid of this goddamn thing. What is it doing in my bedroom, Wake up, it's like the stuff of nightmares. God, man, Jesus. Okay. And I'm not too skeeved out by much, but weasels, and I had a snake once that bit my leg while driving down the road out of my parents' yard the first time I drove their van that was brand new. I slowly wound into the fence at 3 miles an hour and stopped, screaming, put the thing in park, and then my dad came running down the driveway, whipped open the door, and was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I said, "Snake!" I'd already banged my head on the lid of the ceiling when it bit me, and then it bit me a few more times. The whole time I'm literally having a panic attack, like, ah! So, of course, after this, my dad's yelling at me. He's a military guy. He's looking at me. He goes, "Remain calm." I'm looking at him. I'm like, do I fucking look calm? So I got the snake's head in my hand, and I'm looking at it. They tell you that if a snake has a round eye, it's non-poisonous. This snake, to me, looked like it had a cross between an ellipsoid eye like a cat and a round one. So I wasn't real sure whether it was ellipsoid or round with all that adrenaline flowing. I'm shaking. I backed the van up, and I looked at it, and I realized it is a safe snake. It's a corn snake. Okay. About this long. Very friendly snakes. People take them for pets. Good to have around. Keep the rats down. Not good to have hanging on your leg. It felt like a small dog chewing on me. And I got to tell you, it's the wonder I didn't soil myself. I literally had almost my heart stop from it. And I will tell you something. Ever since that, and this is 40-some years later, if I'm driving in a car and something rolls out from under the seat, say there's a soda can or something, right? I will be startled, like to the point where my friends will chuckle and be like, "Snake?" I'm not afraid. If I saw a snake coming after me and it was non-poisonous, I'll grab it. It's not like a fear thing psychically, but just that remembrance of not paying attention to something bumping my leg. Because I felt something before it bit me, and I just was like, "Oh, I just bumped my leg on something." Well, when something hits your leg, you better look, because it just might be a snake. Welcome to my world,
I don't think I'd like that either. But let's get back to music. I want to talk about you with your blue. What was that? Blue.
The Blue Men Group.
Tell everybody about your experience.
Well, I was a 40-year-old guy. I had a young bride, my child bride, as we like to call her, and I got the opportunity. It's kind of a long story, but I'll keep it short. I worked for Muzak. And I had a life-changing deal that I sold, a huge multi-location deal, computer company, cameras, music, all this crap. And it was a life-changing deal. Big deal. So that night, my boss says, come on up to the room. We're going out tonight. It was my birthday, of all things, 2001. I still remember it perfectly. It was the September 9th, the day before 9/11. You know, the 10th is the day before 9/11. So this is 1 year later, and we're out in Vegas. I don't know where we're going. So I go up to his suite. I'm thinking, when he tells me there's going to be a limo downstairs, I'm thinking, yeah, bullshit. There'll be a cab sitting down there, you know. He'd go up to the room. He got all his food piled in the limo, go like 5 blocks down the street to the pyramid. I don't remember what it was called then. The Luxor, excuse me. And the Blue Man Group's playing. And so what happens was my boss would have a habit of putting me on the spot until he knew I could actually play and do my thing well. Like in New Orleans, he did it with a jazz band. He goes, you're going to go down there. I was a new hire. He goes, I want to hear if you're any good. I was like, okay. I went down. I ended up playing the rest of the hour for the guys. Drummer got a break. I had some fun. So Dino tells these guys, they bring somebody up on the stage every show, every night. And there's 3 blue guys, and there's a 4th drum position. Red, yellow, blue, and then a green one for the guest. Usually they bring up somebody who's a civilian who walks up and there's first pair of drumsticks they've ever held in their life. So it's kind of funny and it's entertaining when you watch the show. Well, I got up there and I'm like, I'm not really afraid of anything when it comes to just going out and playing or something. You know, I was like, all right, this is going to be great fun. And I went out and I just started hot dogging it. You know, when I started playing and they could see that I could actually play rudiments, but there's paint splashing all over. I'm covered in paint. And then I started banging on their drums and elbowing them, and we were like having fun because it's all mime. So like when I started tearing it up, the guys would stand there and they'd both look at me like real stern with that blue face. And then they'd look at the audience and look at me. And then they're doing this kind of stuff, doing all these mime things. So I have a great time. Wonderful night. We end up at the new, it was Wynn, beautiful place. And I go home and I'm like, God, that was great fun. That was like the best, coolest. If you're a drummer, being in Blue Man is like the best place to be alive. So
Vegas. I mean,
yeah. Well, here's the deal. My kids were in their junior and senior year of high school. I just got married and gone through a divorce like 2 years prior. I couldn't take my kids out of school and haul ass to Vegas because I was offered a gig out in Vegas. Said, I'm sorry, but you know, my kids are in school. They've been in the same school their whole life. I'm just not, I mean, the divorce, I tried to stick around, but you know, it wasn't doing my wife or me any favors by us continuing to be miserable together. And it just didn't work. I had the 21-year-old plan. So it happened at 16, which was one of those things. But after that, I went back to Muzak.
Well, let me elaborate on what you just said for a minute.
Sure.
As far as musicians, I mean, sometimes we feel guilty because of the life we chosen, which takes us away from our family on weekends, on holidays, we miss weddings. You know,
sure.
Right now we're doing funerals, but I mean,
I've been playing funerals since I was about 10, literally.
Well, our first funerals a while ago, so
isn't that the first one so weird? I mean, I was a kid. I was like, "What the hell are we doing at a funeral?" You know.
I know. Well, it's turned out to be a good thing, but I thought you said something about not being able to do that. I think there's a lot of things that musicians actually give up in their life for the public, and I don't think that actually the public really understands or realizes the amount of energy that we give up for them.
It almost some people, my ex included, would say you can be remarkably selfish, and I get it. In fact, looking back on my own life, I absolutely when you're young, and I've been playing music since I was a kid, and that was all I ever wanted to do. And in fairness to her, all she wanted to do was marry some guy who worked at the plant and made a good living, and I made a good living. But because I chose music, nobody chooses music to get wealthy. People,
that's not. I disagree with you in
Well,
some.
there's some people who that's their whole goal because they like the people who worship money. They don't realize the work though to really be good. Like to sing like Whitney Houston. Not only do you have to know how to sing, you have to have the voice there. And there's a lot of people I see in today's world that I know this. I got into music to play, entertain, have fun, and make good music. And cash and income follows that. If you're dedicated and diligent and you're not fooling yourself, you look in the mirror and honestly go, "Hey, my show is good on these things, not good on these," and you work at it. Like you hire a band. Everybody in your band's not always the guy you want, but they're the guy that you need. And I will hire somebody over their personality, over their playing ability anytime. Because
Really?
if somebody's really decent and they just aren't, say they're a semi-professional trying to make it into a working A-class band, people have to be teachable. If you have teachable people come into the band, if they have a good spirit to work with, if you look at them and go, "Hey man, I know I'm the drummer and you hate hearing me tell you your bass is out of tune, but tune your fucking bass."
Yeah. Well,
I mean, and that's the kind of thing. But when I was younger, I used to be a bit like that. Nowadays, I would just look around the room and go, "Somebody's out of tune, man. Guys, check your tuning." Because I used to just think, "Oh, I'm fucking drummer, and I'm Full Sail grad, and I know more than they do. Fuck you, you know." But you can't be like that. Nobody want to work with you, and that's really all of these things that I say. I have rules, very few, and I have guidelines. If somebody's an asshole, it's an absolute rule. I don't want to work with them.
me too.
If they're complainers, they're always late. I can give you the list of things. Oh, if they bring their boyfriend or girlfriend to rehearsal more than once. Because it won't happen because I'm pretty nasty about it. I'm better now, but I'd say to my guy, "Why is she here? I like you. You're a nice girl, but go home. You're not." We're in a practice, and when it's all guys, we're pretty rude to each other. You know, I mean, it's not a place for the fairer sex when we're killing each other, going "fuck off." That you're playing it wrong or whatever.
Now wait a minute.
But let me say this.
There are more now wait a minute. You're coming from a sexist point of view now.
I made a sexist point, but
women.
there's a point to it.
Yeah. Okay. But there are more women musicians today than there ever have been.
There's more women musicians being trained, physicians, lawyers, accountants.
Exactly.
Guys nowadays, especially white dudes, we're just like, we're so passe. I mean, how can I tell you? I'm an evil white man. I don't know. But, you know, the thing about it is the women who make it in the business don't make it because they're just, you know, using their body or their hair or whatever. They make it because they're better at the boys' game than some of the boys. Because otherwise the boys don't fucking like them. Boys are going to sit back and go, they're going to have two reactions. One is, "I really want to sleep with this chick." You got multiply that times 4 or 5 guys in a band. Then multiply it to the one guy who might get lucky. And then you got 4 people who hate his guts. Then you have band practices where somebody yells at the girlfriend and somebody gets snitty about it. And then me being band dictator, I go, "Take that home, get a motel."
To that point, I've seen a girl destroy like a band almost instantly gone in with that same very thing. And the trouble was this girl was actually talented and could have stood on her own without doing the other stuff.
Well, you know, there's a guitar player that we had on. Her name will come to me. She's a young lady, 23. Oh, God, what's her name? I'd have to look at the show list, but I'm going to have her back. She's 23 years old, Harvard guitar class online. Plays like Joe Satriani, Jeff Beck. Really, I mean, just a ridiculous player. Better than any. I'd hire her tomorrow, and I'd hire her for one reason. Not because she's a chick. She's so fucking good. I want her up there because everybody in the audience is going to look and go, "Damn, that is an amazing player." A well-done band you have got to have in the traditional rock and roll. You have just got to have a drop-dead ridiculous guitar player. And if you don't,
right,
it hinders you because everybody expects it in rock and roll. Playing rhythm is okay, but
to that point, I mean, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
There has to be a certain synergy with
Yes.
players. You can have an absolutely perfect guitar player, wonderful drummer, but if he doesn't connect with your bassist, your bosses, whatever you want to call it. You've got nothing.
Good bass.
Good bass.
Good bass. The Bassomatic.
You gotta have the whole thing. Now, you know, I interview groups. That's what I do. And
Right.
I'm always looking for talent. I just right now put an ad out. A young man, he's like 13 or so, actually contacted me, and I promoted him, but I will not sign him because this boy is so good. He has an opportunity where he could go to Berkeley,
right,
and continue his education, and come out and drop dead, kick them all. You know,
that's kind of what I told my kids. If you want to be in music, get your college, get your life set up, and then play all you want. My daughter, the youngest one, kind of got aggravated with me because she has an amazing voice. When she was 5, she sang Annie live on a headset mic, and some troll behind me goes, "That girl's not singing that. She's playing with the tape." Man, I turned around. I was like,
yeah, we've had that.
I looked around. I said to her, I go, "That's my daughter, and she is definitely not lip syncing, you turd." No, I didn't say that. But...
No, not to us. I mean, seriously. But here's my point. I don't want that young boy playing in bar bands all his
for the
life.
rest of his life. Exactly right.
You
Tell
know,
him, go get a degree at Harvard. You'll have a business degree. You'll know how to market yourself. You'll know how to do all kinds of things.
Absolutely. And that's, you and I both have been promoting that pretty much on our shows.
Absolutely.
And on our websites. But yeah, so I don't mean to digress, but I think there has to be a certain cohesion with musicians. Like right now with Deems.
Right.
You could put Deems in any band, any place, because he's been around for 40 years. Was one of the first bands to play at the casinos, bandstands, and he is totally talented, but he cannot work with me.
Well, you know what?
But that is why people watch us, because we actually, the synergy between us is so different that it's fun. But now, have you ever worked with anybody yourself on a one-on-one basis, Neil?
Absolutely. Many people.
Talk about it a little bit. How was it? Just a duo?
Well, just playing out as a duo?
Yeah.
I like it. It's you play something I found for decades. I said, I'm not playing any damn coffee shop. I need to play in a room that's got at least 200-300 people in there. I'm not doing it. And that was a rule, which now became kind of a guideline. I find that people in coffee shops, they go there to hear the music and they pay much better attention to you. If you're in a duo and I'm sitting there with a conga and I got a great guitar player and we can both sing, it's great fun. It's easy. You don't have to hassle with people getting jealous over the girl singer or any of that crap. It's just two people. And if you do a duo, like in fact, my band, the Shake Society, when we would do sometimes just as a trio, rather than having a saxophone player, a second guitar player, all this extra shit, and we'd just sit out and I'd play a conga, sit on a cajon, but we'd play all those rock and roll songs, because I'm an aggressive drummer, and nobody told me that you don't play a conga and beat the damn hell out of it like you do a drum kit for playing Led Zeppelin songs. Different level of finesse to it. Different level of getting your hands adjusted to playing a leather thing and beating it. My friend Goombi Ortiz is the conga player for Al Di Meola. You shake hands with Goombi and he could make you cry. Even if you're a tough guy with big hand. His hands are so strong from 50 years of beating on congas, I think he could break a piece of wood if he hit it. Because you can get a big blister sheared right across your hand that's like,
We'll have to interview him someday.
I've had him on the show several times, and it's about time to have him on again because he's the character. And Al Di Meola is going on tour. They're playing a world tour next year and playing the entire Elegant Gypsy album, which is just going to kick ass.
Wow, that's...
go ahead.
I'm going to throw a barb out there for me. I'm also a promoter for VanEerde Records.
Right.
And we have Magdalena Tull is finally coming to the U.S.
Excellent.
But it's another thing too. One of my
Oh,
Oh,
Not she's an equal. She's an equal. She's a great, a talented musician, and she said to me, "Why are we not hiring local people and bringing people in from abroad?" And I said to her, I said, because that there is talent. Yes, there's talent everywhere, but when you hit that certain degree of talent of
when
that,
you get to New York, LA, or Miami, and if you're not at a certain level, you're going to realize that's why you always have to be realistic in your skin. Guys, I have to say, believe it or not, we are at the end of our show. I canceled 2 commercials, and I'm going to play one right now because I have a customer of mine. But guys, thanks you for being on. I'd love to have you back on, but I do have to pay the bills.
thank you for the
thank you
opportunity.
for having us.
Anytime. We'll talk again. We'll see each other, I'm sure, soon. So great to have both of you. Guys, we're out of here. I'm going to play commercial. This is a friend of mine. You want to buy this CD, people.
There's some changes headed, like the Gulf Stream rising, like some gale that's been blowing off this wild bird island shore. And I can't say where, and I don't know when, but some old door's been opened in the restless shade. Poor man sagging cigarette takes the subway.
It was excellent.
Bye bye, everybody. We're still here. Imagine that.
Bye.